Let's talk about the breaking news story, which is the martial law in Ukraine. Okay, I'm going to play you this video of Putin basically laying it out, and then we'll discuss further.
Продолжаются обстрелы. Гибнут мирные люди. Неонацисты используют откровенно террористические методы диверсии на объектах жизнеобеспечения. Устраивают покушения на представителей местных органов власти в Донецкой Народной Республике, Луганской Народной Республике, а также в Херсонской и Запорожской областях до их вступления в состав России действовал режим военного положения. И сейчас нам необходимо оформить этот режим уже в рамках российского законодательства. Поэтому мною подписан указ о введении военного положения в этих 4 субъектах Российской Федерации. В сегодняшней ситуации считаю необходимым наделить дополнительными полномочиями руководителей всех российских регионов. Соответствующий указ также сегодня подписан. Высшие должностные лица субъектов Федерации должны уделять необходимое внимание реализации мер, призванных обеспечить безопасность людей, охрану и антитеррористическую защищенность критически важных объектов, поддержание общественного порядка.
Let me explain what this means, right? And there's an article from Reuters which I thought encapsulated it the best, because this only applies to the whatever you want to call them. If you're Russian, you're going to say this is Russia. If you're Ukrainian, you're going to say it's Ukraine. And if you live in these regions, there's the kicker. A lot will say it's Russia, right? Because a lot of people who live here are ethnic Russians and speak Russian. So this martial law applies to the new integrations into the Russian Federation. So we're talking about Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk. Okay, so Russia basically integrated these into the Federation after the referendums, which took place a few weeks ago. And in Reuters, they go through what this means, actually, this decree that Putin just signed. So they say that in televised remarks to members of his Security Council, Putin boosted the security powers of all Russia's regional governors, all of them, and ordered the creation of a special coordinating council under Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin to step up the faltering war effort. He said that, quote, the entire system of state administration, so not only the specialized security agencies, must be geared to support what Russia calls its special military operation, the war effort, whatever. The published Kremlin decree orders a quote-unquote economic mobilization in 8 regions adjoining Ukraine, including Crimea, which Russia invaded and annexed in 2014. It placed them under a special regime one step below martial law and allowed for the restriction of people's movements. Okay, so that's again, you see restriction of people's movements, that's one of the main things. And then when they say here that Putin conferred additional powers to all the leaders of Russia's 80-plus regions, okay, to protect critical facilities, maintain public order, and increase production in support of the war effort. The reasoning in the West is that, okay, well, he's doing this because it's either a response to the Crimea bridge attack, or it's because he's losing the war. So he's trying to shift all this responsibility on the local authorities. Stronsky, who's a former Russia specialist at the U.S. State Department, said the president's orders, so Putin's orders, epitomized Moscow's struggles to implement an effective war plan. That he had a vision and it's gone terribly wrong. And this is kind of like every single decision that comes out of the Kremlin shows that the Kremlin is losing the war. This is the Western narrative, okay? And they were saying this long before the Ukrainians took back Kharkiv and launched the offensive in Kherson. So, this since the beginning of the war, they've been saying these things. And here they say also that Paul Stronsky, who's a Russia expert with the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, said that Putin was placing more responsibility on regional heads, yes, by ordering them onto a war footing, but without making clear what they actually need to do. This is stuff that's just coming in now. So I gather that in the next couple of days, you'll see more explanation as to what this actually entails, because they're only saying that it limits people's movement. But, usually from this kind of don't call it mobilization, but when they're basically issuing a decree to all the 80 plus regional authorities, that shows that he wants to up things on a national level. Do you understand? Because the people are saying that, okay, well, he's just doing that in eastern Ukraine, in the Donbass and Zaporizhia to oppress the people in Ukraine. But it doesn't just affect those regions. It affects all of Russia, the entire Russian Federation. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But I'll go more into this as more details come out, because this is just breaking from the last couple of hours. So that's all they've put into the decree. The announcement was not long, and I'll keep you in the loop. One last thing that I'll just add about Kherson is that there's asking people to evacuate. So again, if we look up here, Kherson is down there, okay? So you can see there's some of the gains, although keep in mind this map is from September 29th, so it's a bit outdated now, but it's still from a couple of weeks ago. You can see the gains they made in Kherson, the Ukrainians in purple. It wasn't as much as in Kharkiv, but nevertheless, Stremusov, who's the governor in Kherson, the deputy governor, is saying that the Ukrainians are going to start an offensive, and he says, quote, "I ask you to take my words seriously and to understand them as meaning as prompt an evacuation as possible." Okay, so they're asking people to just leave because they think the Ukrainians are going to attack.